I want to turn now to Texas, where the Ten Commandments are now required to be displayed in public schools. The new law is sparking a range of strong reaction from teachers, parents, and students. And as CBN's Jenna Browder reports, it's also running into some legal battles.
It's the nation's largest attempt to display the Ten Commandments in public schools. And across Texas, there is no shortage of strong opinions.
I don't know if there's a place for me in the school system right now as it stands and as it's in the direction that it's been heading.
Gigi Cervantes, a theater teacher at a Fort Worth school, quit over the new law.
My religion and my spiritual choices are my choices, and everybody else should have the freedom to make their choices without having something else imposed on them.
The law requires schools to hang the Ten Commandments if the displays are donated and put in a conspicuous place with text large enough to read from anywhere in the classroom.
Here are the Ten Commandments. These are great principles to live by.
Lauren Lechty and his family donated posters to the Rockwall Independent School District in suburban Dallas. He says he remembers growing up with the Ten Commandments on the wall and teachers starting the day with prayer.
We're not forcing anyone to follow any specific set of rules, right? These, like I said, are great guidelines for living, great historical guidelines for our nation and how we develop.
The reaction from districts has varied. For example, in suburban Dallas, Frisco didn't wait for donations. School officials went ahead and spent about $1,800 to print nearly 5,000 posters. Others, like Galveston, are waiting until the courts decide the law's constitutionality, as the law itself is running into some legal challenges. This week, a federal judge ruled that it violates First Amendment protections of religious liberty and forbidding the government establishment of religion. And so far, federal courts have ordered more than 24 of the state's roughly 1,200 school districts to not hang the posters. On the other side, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton announced lawsuits against 2 districts he said were violating the law, though one of them said they are displaying donated posters. Courts have struck down similar laws in Arkansas and Louisiana, but this one is expected to make it to the United States Supreme Court. Jenna Browder, CBN News.
And it's a legal battle we will continue to follow. Gordon?
Well, the Ten Commandments are the bedrock of Western civilization. It's been a guide since Moses came down from Sinai. And more than a guide, these are really good rules to live by. If you question the wisdom of letting children know there are rules in the universe, the things that if you don't do these things, you're going to have a much better life. There was a wonderful experiment, if you will, out of MIT. It was an Israeli professor, and what he did is he would sort of test his own students with will they become better people if they're reminded that there are certain rules they have to live by. And so they would post rules, or they would have students recognize that MIT had an honor code, and they had to sign their tests saying that they hadn't received any assistance on the exam. The underlying reality is MIT had no honor code, and that wasn't ever required, but he put it into that class, and the students went along with it. And then he put a moral dilemma in front of them without letting them know that that was doing it. Those who had signed the pledge, those who had looked at rules and said, I'm going to abide by these rules, well, in the moral test later, they performed a whole lot better. Wouldn't it be great for all the children in America to know that there are rules? There are certain things that you shouldn't do. It's kind of obvious that you shouldn't murder people, and you shouldn't steal, you shouldn't bear false witness, you should honor your mother and father. Those are pretty obvious rules. The one about coveting, the rabbis say, well, that shows the divine inspiration, that you want to be aware of even what your own heart is doing, because your heart can lead you astray. These are wonderful things to teach children, and it defies common sense that we don't want to instill rules into children so that when they grow up, they'll still abide by those rules. From where I'm sitting, a society that agrees together, well, let's not commit adultery, let's not steal, let's not murder, let's not covet what each other has, let's honor our parents. Those are all wonderful things to abide by. let's make sure that we can do that, and we can do that with our children. That would be a wonderful society to have.